Welcome to NGTV Does City Skylines Tips. My name is Spencer. I'll be your host for this particular series of episodes, and I'm just going to go over some of the initial kind of things you need to know in order to get started in City Skylines. Let's go ahead and start a city here. We'll start on Green Plains. It seems to be what everyone else is playing on now. And I will name our city the Starter. Wait, the Stratosphere. No. The Starter Town. There you go. Cool. All right. And first off, when you're building your city, don't worry about making, especially when you're first starting. Okay, get out of here. We don't need you. Especially when you're making the city for the first time, you don't worry about making the best city because you're not going to. Your first 5 cities are going to be terrible. I'm only on like my like 5th or so, and I still feel like I'm terrible, but I want to impart the wisdom and knowledge that I've gained through watching City Skylines, other people playing it, as well as my own personal kind of knowledge that I've kind of come up with, or at least I feel like I've come up with separately from that through my actual play of the game. So what I'm going to go through here is just the 7 things you'll be checking when you play City Skylines the most. So that is the different screens, the most important things to look at, just to kind of get it started. And what I'll be doing is I'll be using this same city for the whole series, mostly. And we'll be kind of going through that. So the screens you'll be checking, the most important one in the beginning is money. You gotta, you have to look at how much money you have. That's the obvious one. That is the immediate one everyone's going to be looking at the very beginning is how much money do I have so I can build my shit, right? A quick tip here, just so we can get started on building a city. If you just build a little bit of a road, it unlocks the one-ways and just about everything else. So your initial roads are greatly affected by the fact that you can just build a road in the beginning. So going back to the actual screens we'll be looking at, we'll get to the actual city in a second. Money is very important. You have to pay close attention to that. Take a look at your budget, your loans. You see, actually, I don't have taxes and loans available to me yet. In fact, what we'll do is let's go ahead and save our game right now. Save it as a new save. We'll rename it later. We'll start up Green Acres, which is actually our current gameplay footage. And I'm not going to actually go into the town here. This is actually not even up to date with my current system of play. It has some good ideas. It has kind of a grid system, which is nice. But just to give you a better idea as to what you're going to get on your screens. So you have loans here, which are very useful to take out in case you need to get out of a bind, or if you really want to build that, that building that you've been wanting to build for a while. It's good to pay them off as soon as possible if you have the extra cash. So always check back to see if maybe you have like payment left or something like that, and all of those. Your budget is extremely useful. If you're ever low or you're tanking, look at what's currently affecting your town the least, and also take into account how much money you're actually spending on it. Because if you look at, my force, my what is this called? My decorations really aren't that important. I'll just turn that all the way down. We're only actually spending $33, so it's not gonna save anything on you right here. But one of the things you can lower is if you don't have a lot of industry, you can lower your not your police department. That's your fire, because to be honest, as long as you have good roads, your fire department and your police department really don't affect you as much in the beginning. The police department especially, you could have very, very sparse amounts of police departments, and really the only reason why you would want more is if there's a particular area that's just, it's just red on your screen. Like say if you checked here and you were like, oh, I wonder how my police departments are doing. Where the heck is that thing? Okay, here's your fire safety. Oh my god, our fire safety is terrible. Let's take a look here. We got noise. Where's my police department? I'm just going to go through the whole thing. Education, garbage, citizen happiness, levels, traffic, crime. Okay, crime. Yeah, sorry. It says, so threw me off. See, right here we have one police department. Everyone's happy. It's totally cool, There's not really any crime. Industry, for some reason, has a lot of crime. I don't know why. Going back to this here, get away. Jesus. You can turn these down to kind of save quick money and kind of bring yourself back on a loop, because what you don't want to do, which is the next little tab over here, is raise your taxes too high. You can raise them to a limited extent. I've never gone beyond like 13 or 14%, and that's when I was really in a bind. What you want to do, though, is maybe put it up to like 11 or 12. If you're having some issues, maybe you give yourself a little bit of starting capital. It's going to lower the amount of people that are coming into your city, but you know, it's really a choice that you have to make whether or not going completely under is worth it, or if you want to stay on top with the taxes, then bring it back down to a reasonable level, as low as you can get it, with still making a good amount of money. Because what you can always do is you always just leave, once you get your city in a stabilized place, you can just leave it sitting there. And usually it'll make money for you. So going back to our list here, number 2 is electricity. And electricity really affects the way your city's going, especially in the beginning. And you're going to be checking it a lot. Every time you create a new area onto your city, you're going to want to check your electricity, make sure that it's crawling up there. And the only time you're really going to be checking it is just to look at this little bar up here, just to make sure that your city has good coverage. When it comes to actually getting the spread of your city, there's only really 2 major instances where you're going to be checking this portion of your city for the spread, is if you're building a huge portion on and you have a demand for something that's way out there, and then nothing where you're actually building here, like say you're building like some infrastructure for later, you're going to want to build like a power line or something like that to get you to where you need to go, or something like that. So, and then of course in the beginning, when you need to get power over to your initial places. See right here we have our windmill powering our water supply, and then we have our 2 coal mines right here. Oh, not coal mines, but our coal plants. All right. Okay, so the third thing you want to be checking here is obviously your water. This is the most important one to be checking basically every time you build something. Every time you put down a road and you want to zone it, you have to make sure you have your water. And the good thing to do, well, a good trick to use with it, and we're not really utilizing it here very well, but is just follow the roads. Just go right down the middle of the road, and everything on the outsides are going to be are going to have good spread for water. So that's a good way of kind of going about getting your water done. Also, don't do what I did here. And well, this isn't so bad, but sometimes there's instances where you don't have to connect it to every little point. You can just put it just as far as the little blue line, and that's perfectly fine. There's no real issues with the way the water flows or any of that. It's pretty basic when it comes to the water. Number 4 is demand. Now, demand is something that you're going to be looking at almost as much as money, which is this little bar down here. When the bar is high, that means they want more of it. When the bar is low, that means they're not really looking for it. So if you build something here, like say if I build a ton of commercial, nobody's going to be building commercial because you don't have any of your residential, which is what they're wanting right now. So it's something to take into account. Something that some people are saying is don't always let your stuff get too low down, because then if there's no demand for anything, you're going to be growing slower. Another thing you can do is you can create demand. Let me get this out of here. You can put down, you can increase the land value of your areas, and just overall city planning will do a better job at creating more demand. Number 5 here is traffic. Now let me take a look at our traffic screen. And traffic is looking pretty good in our little town. And traffic really is the deciding factor. It's the most important part of the game, besides having enough money to buy your stuff, is really getting everything to work correctly with your infrastructure and traffic. It affects your trash, it affects your cemeteries, and affects supplies getting to and from your power plants, which is super, super important. So you always want to put your power plants either close to the highway or just have really good roads going to it. I have a city currently in some of my offline play, which I don't have access to on this computer for some reason. There's a weird save issue going on, but I have a city that well, what I did with my industry was I created 6-lane roads for all of my industry places, and so all of my industry had 6-lane roads, which was awesome for the traffic, because I was having major issues inside of my industry because of just the sheer dense amount of traffic that was going through there. So it's good to either create bigger roads or just design them in a smarter fashion. One thing to take into account is when you're doing roads, 2-lane roads don't require intersections, so you're not going to have any intersections or signals slowing people down. So take that into account as well. Smaller, but no intersections, which is pretty nice. Number 6 is our education, and this is what really affects, along with land value, is what really affects how the level of your buildings and how they go up. Also, the types of workers that you're having in your town, whether or not they're educated or uneducated. So unless it's citizen happiness, what I'm looking at. Okay, so education here. And education is affected by your elementary schools, your high schools, and your universities. As you can tell, I have no universities in this particular playthrough, but our elementary schools they don't really have a huge sphere of influence. I guess it's kind of like real life. You go into a town and there's usually 5 elementary schools for every high school, right? But when you lay them down, you're going to want to make sure that the roads are green in a particular area of effect, and that's really going to determine how far they can go. But also look at the density to learn how many people are actually going to be going to your schools. Now, what's great is the low-density housing has families that move in, and the high-density housing usually has adults. So that kind of dictates what types of people are going to be going there. You're not going to need as many elementary schools in the high density as you are going to be in the low density, and you're probably going to want more high schools and universities, especially in the higher density places, because there's more young adults. And just like with electricity and water, you're going to be wanting to look at this particular bar just to make sure that you have availability. That's going to really dictate whether or not you want to build more just based on the number of people. And when you do, just make the most of it. If there's like red over here, I'm probably going to put one or down right here, maybe one right next to the cemetery, because that's always a good idea. Number 7 is trash. And trash, for some reason, people love to bitch so much about trash. I don't know what it is, but I guess when your trash is piling up, you can get pretty upset about it. So let's take a look at our trash over here. Now, as you can see, we have pretty good trash spread here. This is because really roads dictate how well your trash goes around. Just make sure you pay attention to your landfill usage and your incinerator status. Once you get to a certain level of people, you can unlock incinerators. And really, you're going to want to move away from landfills and move towards incinerators, so that you don't have to worry about them, overfilling. And then, really, the trucks work the same with landfills and incinerators. So it's kind of a transitionary period of your city. Now, there's a couple of other things here. Those are the top 7 things you're going to be looking at when you play the game. Here's a couple of extras, just other things you're going to be glancing at as you go, but they're not nearly as important. You have your medical screen here, and let me see if I can find that, which really is health, but also medical down here as well. It brings up the health as you go, so it's actually kind of easier. And that's just to make sure that people have good spread towards your clinics. If they don't, they're going to bitch about being, sick or whatever. And even commercial locations and industrial locations are going to have problems with that. But most generally, you're going to have problems with your residential. Now, another small one here is your police, which is your crime. You're rarely ever going to look at this unless you have problems in your industrial, and really, people are going to tell you when they have problems with their industrial areas, or with police in general, crime. Fire is another one, and that's really just to check to make sure you have good spread. We have terrible spread at the moment, but the only place you really have to worry about is just in industry. There's, they're high-risk areas. Cemeteries. Let me take a look here. I don't know which one. Let's see here. Which one is cemeteries? You're making me look bad, game. Oh, there's pollution. Noise pollution. That's something you should probably worry about as well. But that only really has to do with the quality of life of people near here. You can reduce noise by putting trees down next to roads and in between large areas with more traffic. Also, highways are very, very noisy, so watch out for that. If you're going to be, I'm going to solve my traffic problems by putting just highways everywhere. I have lots of money. Well, you're also going to have tons of noise, and nobody's going to live there. Pollution is the other thing. After I find my cemeteries, wherever that is. Where are my cemeteries? I guess it's under my health. Yeah, it's under my health. So really, watching your clinics and watching your spread on your cemeteries. In fact, I don't even think we have cemeteries yet. I thought this was a cemetery. I guess it is, yeah. But just making sure that you have good roads for the cemeteries, just like with traffic, just to make sure that gets done well. Pollution, the only thing you're going to worry about is really it doesn't move. There's a ton of wind in this area, and as you notice, the pollution is still just over the industry. So I'm not sure if they're going to add that in later in the game, but currently it just kind of sits over the top of industry. So just make sure that wherever this line ends, you can put residential. I could have put residential right here and been totally fine. People would not be as happy about it, but they wouldn't necessarily be getting sick because it doesn't really move, which is kind of a little cheaty kind of way to get around it. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button. If you want to see more, subscribe. If you have any tips, or maybe I said something wrong that's not true, or anything like that, feel free to leave a comment below. In regards to this, I really would prefer the feedback in regards to how well this video has worked out. Did I ramble too much? Did I list things well? Did I explain things okay? Stay tuned for some of my later videos I'll be coming out with. I'll probably do one based on just traffic and roads alone, and one as well as with some tips as to zoning. So stay tuned for those. This series, I'll be building that other city. Let me go ahead and take a look here. Our new save. This save right here is strictly for our starter town. and we'll be building that on in the next episode of Roads. So like I said, go ahead and hit the like button if you've enjoyed this episode. If you want to see more, subscribe. Again, I'll see you guys next time.